Grace, that's amazing, a name worth praising. Your love leaves me gazing, it's incredible. The price that you paid, the sacrifices that you made, all for my soul to save. All I can say is incredible. 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 All I can say is incredible. How you make me feel. Let me know you're real. All I can say is incredible.
Hi, and welcome to Life from Studio D.O.C. I'm the host of the show, Dr. Honeycutt, and I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And I should say, I'm just so excited.
It's going to be incredible.
It's going to be incredible. Thank you for joining me, Lisa.
You're welcome.
How
You're
are you
welcome.
doing
I'm
tonight?
doing great. I'm doing
How are
great.
you doing great? Don't spill it now.
I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
I'll let you do it.
You going to let me do it?
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I want everybody to have time to go get a snack, go get some water, because when we start talking about this topic, then they're not going to want to miss anything.
They're going to be all in.
Yeah, it's a good topic, but it's serious. And
That's
why
right.
is it serious? Because we're talking about diabetes.
Well, I think the important thing is to know that it affects so many people. I bet you've had somebody in your life that you know.
I've had somebody in my life. Have you had somebody in your life?
I've had somebody in my life, my mom and both of my grandparents, 2 of my 4 grandparents.
And I've also, my dad
Mm-hmm.
and my granddaddy. And I can remember my granddad laying up in the bed. He lost both of his legs.
Wow.
Yes, and it just kind of took his livelihood.
Yeah.
Which is why I just thought it was a great need for us to invite our guest tonight.
I think it's terrific.
It
Good
is,
job.
and she's gonna answer a lot of questions that a lot of people have, unanswered questions.
That's right.
But I want her to keep it as simple as possible, because sometimes when people go to the doctors, come to see us, it kind of gets over their heads. But she's gonna keep it simplified so everybody can understand exactly what she's talking about.
I like it. I like it.
We like to set people up for success.
That's right.
For
We
healthy
want to
success.
help people live their life incredible.
Exactly. Which is why we want to thank Miss Angelique Lewis Jones for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me, ladies.
Thank you. And just tell us just a little bit about who Miss Jones is. And feel free just to let us know, like, what kind of school that you, background, your education, and what brought you to treat patients with diabetes, or to help patients with diabetes.
Okay. Well, I'm a registered licensed dietitian. I've done my undergraduate studies in Bachelor of Science, and I've taken a national board after completing a year internship, which was pretty extensive, to say the least. I got into nutrition because of my passion for science and cooking. I love to cook. I love to eat.
I love it.
So what better combination than the two? Currently, I've also been affected with diabetes in my family as well. My paternal grandfather had diabetes, and I always wondered why he was eating so much different from the rest of the family. So that kind of intrigued me as a child, which also added my interest to learn a little bit more about nutrition and the sciences and how the body works and how food plays a really important part of that.
And you said something about you was wondering why he ate differently. And I can remember when my dad was diagnosed with diabetes, that was the only thing that they knew to do was to change his diet back then.
That's right.
But first, I want you to just kind of tell people a little bit about what diabetes is. I know everybody's heard the name, and how many types is it?
Well, diabetes is a metabolic disease state, and there are actually 4 types. A lot of people don't know that. Type 1 is when they used to think of it as a child onset diabetes.
Juvenile diabetes.
Juvenile diabetes, exactly. Not anymore. They've actually noticed that you can acquire type 1 in an earlier state of life. Now, there's also that type 1, you do not make insulin. Your body doesn't produce it at all. So you can actually die if you don't have the insulin shots. Now they have the insulin in a pen, which is a lot more compact, it's transportable, it's easy, it's less open. Type 2 diabetes is when a lot of people get it because of obesity. That's the #1 leading cause of type 2 diabetes. So weight loss is a really, really great way to prevent that. If you're obese, BMI greater than 30, even greater than 25, especially if you have a family history of diabetes, you put yourself in that category as a high-risk patient. Type 3 diabetes is gestational diabetes. You can acquire that when you're pregnant. So they do a glucose tolerance test. If your blood sugar is at a certain level, that's when they will diagnose you. Now, gestational diabetes can put you at risk for acquiring type 2 down the line. Okay. The 4th type is pre-diabetes. That is on the rise. There is an A1C test that people would go to their doctors. If their doctors know that they have a family history of it and they think they're at risk, they will do that. They should run that test. That test will give you a snapshot of 2 to 3 months and how well the glucose is being actually controlled via diet, a sedentary lifestyle, or even an active lifestyle. So a lot of different factors.
Isn't that interesting that there's a blood test that can tell what's been going on in your body for 2 to 3 months?
Exactly.
Check that out.
Isn't that awesome?
Well, I want to hear, will you please explain what, you use 2 words that maybe our viewers aren't familiar with, insulin and BMI.
Okay.
And I know we want to cover a lot about nutrition. So first, to help us understand what does insulin do
Okay.
for in our bodies?
Good question. Insulin, you can think of insulin like the key. It opens up all the cells of the body, so the foods that you eat actually can go in. If you don't have insulin, guess what? That food just hangs out in your bloodstream and it raises your blood sugar. So insulin is a very important hormone that the body produces. The other thing, BMI is basal metabolic index. That pretty much tells you what your height to weight ratio is, and it gives you a scale. So the doctors can pretty much pinpoint where you should be, where you are now, and where you ought to be.
But there are other resources other than a doctor to determine BMI, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What are-
Registered dietitians, physical trainers, physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants. Absolutely.
Now you said something about the AC1,
A1C?
A1C.
Yes.
Could you just kind of touch on that just a little bit?
Sure. That is a test. It's called a glycosylated blood sample, for simpler terms. Pretty much what...
Simple term.
Right. A1C.
Right.
I got that.
That particular test, it's not affected by when you eat. You know how you go to the doctor and they want you fasting, so you starve throughout the whole day until you get there? This is not affected by food at all. So you can actually eat because it's taking your history for your blood control for the 2 to 3 months. Yeah.
Neat.
So, when would you start testing? Like, would you start testing a child for diabetes, or at what point in somebody's life would you start testing?
Great question. When you find that you have some symptoms like constant thirst, constant urination, hunger, fatigue, tingling sensations in your nerves, your hands, your feet, heart palpitations some people have. It depends on the person, but those are all signs and symptoms of a possible onset of diabetes.
Could you say those one more time?
Sure. Tingling sensation in your hands and your feet, constant thirst, constant hunger, Frequent urination, always having to go to the bathroom.
I just got thirsty. I mean, just hearing that.
And you talked about now the tingling in the hands and feet. Is that the neuropathy?
It is.
Okay.
It's a stabbing feeling, sensations like pins are sticking you. It's burning. Some people get a burning sensation, like your hands are over fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And can that go away with?
It progressively gets worse if
wow.
it's not treated.
So, what kind of doctor would you see to be treated for diabetes?
Well, you can actually see several different types of doctors. You can see an internist, or a specialized doctor is an endocrinologist. So they are specialists at strictly diabetes.
So, they're basically treating your symptoms
They treat
as
your
they come?
Yes, they
Okay.
treat your symptoms. They treat your medication administration. They even do maintenance.
But there's different symptoms for the different types, right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, what are some of the different symptoms, like you may see for type 1
Yes.
versus type 2?
Okay. Well, type 1, basically you have some of the same symptoms, which is thirst. But you're really, really fatigued because your body can't get in the nourishment that it needs. It needs to have the food. So you're always tired. You're always sluggish. You don't have good concentration. You can virtually die if you don't have insulin if you're type 1.
I'm starting to think I had this. I just got tired. All of a
You
sudden,
know,
I
I
almost
was scared.
yawned.
I was going to ask you, are you still thirsty?
I mean, but you know, that was one thing that we were talking about before the show, that sometimes it's easy to ignore these things. You think you haven't had enough rest. You think you haven't drank enough water. You want to blame it on other things that are in your life. But once somebody's diagnosed, what do they do then? What can they do to help themselves?
Well, they'll probably be placed on a medication regime. If that doesn't work, then the doctors will work with you in terms of starting an exercise regimen. You don't have to go full out. You can start 10 minutes a day, then gradually increase progressively to maybe 30. Once you've succeeded with the 30, go to an hour. I mean, the sky's the limit. The first step is exercise. Then you can gradually change your diet. Diet modification is 80% of the whole picture. Exercising is 20.
It's true. I believe that.
Yeah.
I really do.
I was going to, now, I hear people, first of all,
Here it comes. I'm just saying.
they wait until, it's like they wait until they get like really bad. I mean, you tell them, you know they have diabetes, and they'll wait until something happens where, I guess it's gone too far, then they want to do something about it. Tell me why, if they know that they have this disease, you talked about how important nutrition is, why do they seem to think that they can just do a little bit of this, like I just had a little bit of this, or I just had a little bit of cake? Why do they think that they can just do things that are poison to their systems and it's not going to hurt them?
She can't answer that question. Nobody knows why people don't take good advice.
Denial.
Well, it's hard socially. You know this. You have a very restricted diet. You're very careful about what you eat. And I have a restricted diet. And socially, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to be out and about, and everybody's having enjoying spaghetti. And I can't have that. And see, you don't feel that same thing that I do.
Like, I can go to a buffet, and I know I don't eat fried food.
So you
And
go
I'm
to the
not going to
protein.
look at it and say, oh, that look good, because I know that's not part of my, my regimen.
What's good for you? What's good for that temple?
What's good for this temple? Yes.
But that's why we're having this show, so that we can talk about what are some of the right foods. That,
Well-
so for me, it's easier to remember what I should eat rather than what I can't eat,
Yeah.
So tell us some of the important things for people to include in their diet, whether they have diabetes or not, how to avoid it and how to maintain.
Vegetables. A lot of people pass on the veggies. They're loaded with nutrients and vitamins. They're less filling. A lot of them have fiber, which fills the tummy and prevents you from eating all the wrong things,
Right.
like a lot of the processed sugars, a lot of the candies, the cakes, the pies, the sweetbreads. Carbohydrates are a major, major culprit in affecting the blood sugar level. So you can find that even in fruits, which are natural sources. So a lot of people overdo it on fruits. Minimize your fruits. Have maybe a fruit a day. Carbohydrates, less refined carbs, more whole wheat, multigrains. Now, there are a lot of people out there who may have other symptoms from other ailments that may not be able to eat the multigrains or the wheat.
But there ain't anybody that can't eat a vegetable. Have you heard of
Correct.
anybody that can't eat a vegetable?
No.
Just saying.
They may not like to eat the vegetables, but
I mean, have you ever heard anybody say, I'm allergic to broccoli?
well, I don't like broccoli. But I had to train, like, I had to program my mind, like, totally from me being raised on certain types of food. And the reason I did change my lifestyle was,
Because you wanted this.
well, because of my family, the history of diabetes, and I watched like I said, I watched my granddad with his legs amputated, and I'm like, light came on. If what I put in my mouth can keep me from getting this fatal disease,
Let's do
I'm
it.
gonna watch what I put
Right
in my
on,
mouth.
right on.
Exactly. So
right.
and it's lifestyle, for me. It's and it's easy because it is a lifestyle change. So
Well, and you're a testament to that, and that's such a great statement, because we've all seen people in our lives, and I've seen, and diabetes affects different people different ways, but it complicates everything. Every medical intake form, whether you're having a dental procedure or an eye lift,
Absolutely.
if you check that button, check that box, things are different, and you're treated differently, and your outcome might be different. So eat vegetables. What about time of day? I mean, I hear a lot of talk about don't eat after this, or
Well, you want your tummy to rest, so you don't want it constantly going, and you don't want your body to be producing all these hormones as well, because when we eat, guess what? All these different chain reactions go off in our bodies. So yes, I do follow, do not eat after 8. Allow your stomach acids to stay in the tummy, right? Drink more water. A lot of people forget that.
water.
We hear
Water.
that time and time again from our guests, don't we? I mean, if there was one thing, it would be life from Studio D.O.C. Life incredible, drink more water.
Drink
I mean,
more
that would be,
water.
I mean, we really do hear that
Absolutely.
from,
It's so essential to our bodies.
It is.
And like I said before, water is the only substance that can help. It's the only thing that removes fat from the body. Water is, I mean, you can, not a protein drink, not the juices that they, not water, H2O.
Well, I read someplace that you should, that people who really are struggling with weight loss or diabetes, or the fear of diabetes, make it, most successful patients make it a habit to have something green even at breakfast. And I think that makes so much sense. And I've had, I went through a little phase there where I was doing really good, and I had some arugula, because I like the peppery flavor of it. I would have arugula, and maybe this isn't right because it's a fruit, but arugula and fruit, because I liked the taste. So some of it is trying to find what do you like that's good for you,
But I
and
think
that's hard.
Having a fruit like first thing in the morning, because your body is, going to be in burn mode. So you're probably.
But maybe not for somebody with diabetes.
Well, no, not for somebody with diabetes. But you was like, maybe it's wrong for you.
Right.
You have diabetes. Like, so.
Is it wrong? Is it right?
No. I'm just saying, if that was your choice.
Correct.
I don't eat fruit, but if I did, I probably would have it early in the morning, because I know I've ran that morning and my body is in burn mode, and it would burn it up. But
What do you think about eating something green for first thing?
I love it. I do it a lot. I do breakfast pizzas, I mean, with just egg whites and kale and tomatoes and a little bit of cottage cheese on the side.
I'm a big
So
fan
I
of
love
cottage
it.
cheese.
I
love
love
it.
it.
Love it.
Love the idea.
Love it. Really? Is it the texture? Talk about sugar. Where is sugar that we don't know?
A lot of beverages. A lot of beverages. And like I said before, sugar is in fruit. It may be a natural sugar, but it's still sugar.
And if your body don't use it, it turns into fat.
Correct.
So, okay, a lot to digest, right?
I know, right? But don't get it. A lot to digest.
lot.
That's kind of funny.
How about supplements?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of supplements or anything natural that a person can take to help to control their glucose level?
Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Cinnamon is number one. Garlic also helps the cardiovascular. And that is one of the signs and symptoms of uncontrolled diabetes. People don't die from diabetes. They die from the complications the diabetes actually produces.
I try to tell people about garlic.
What do you eat cinnamon?
No, but
No.
I do take garlic supplements, and I'll take them forever.
Do you not just put garlic on toast?
No, my body says no.
Well, garlic on fish? Really? You just take
I take
don't
the
you?
supplements.
It doesn't give you bad breath?
No, that's why I do the odorless. And it wards flus, colds, and she just told you.
Vampires?
Yeah, keep them away.
So cinnamon, what would be a good way for somebody to add cinnamon to their...
Oh, you can do savory for anything. Coffee, you can do seasoning on your meats, you can put cinnamon in a little of your salads.
So just a little bit?
Just
what do you
a little.
mean?
Well, half
Sprinkle?
a teaspoon.
Okay. So
And
that's
it
just really
depends
a
on
little.
how often that you want to do it, Kale is also a really good vegetable to
Everybody
lower blood
loves
sugar.
them kale.
Well, kale is like the king. It's the king vegetable, yes.
There's a chicken restaurant that doesn't help sponsor the show, so we're not going to say their name.
No.
But one of my good friends is in love with their new salad
Really.
because it's kale and
How
cherries. We can't really decide, but
Raw honey. How is it?
Now that does affect the blood sugar.
Okay. So tell us why.
Because it's concentrated. Even though it's natural, it's a concentrated natural sweetener.
So what would you...
good or bad?
Well, if you're uncontrolled diabetic,
Right.
can be bad. If you are pre-diabetes, that may push you over the edge to becoming a diabetic.
Gotcha.
And once you're in that arena of being diagnosed, there's no reverse.
I was about to say, do you ever get out of that realm? So the most important thing for all of us to do is avoid it all. Try very, very hard not to get in that category, no matter
Correct.
what we
Keep
do.
it in control.
And know your A1C. Know what it is. If it's anywhere below 6, you're in a good range.
I'd have to diet for 3 months before I took that thing. I'm just saying.
Not that bad.
I don't know. Every time we have a show, I
You're not
have
good.
higher
you
goals.
have to take inventory. Like,
I
okay.
do. Every time we meet somebody smart like Angelique. Well, I want to share this with you, and I hope the person that I love and admire very much, my mother, wouldn't mind me sharing this. I'm
being
just
shady.
calling her out. But so she sometimes will get a really washed over with she is a diabetic, and she'll get washed over with this feeling, and I don't know whether it's a high or a low. So when somebody's diagnosed with diabetes, what should their family know? Like, what are the signs that somebody's having a problem, a sugar spike or sugar? Because she just gets foggy, and I don't know, do I give her a candy or do I mean.
Right. So here's how you would determine that. Take her blood sugar. If her blood sugar is below 60, you know you need to elevate the blood sugar by giving her that candy. If it's completely high, off the charts, greater than 240, it's too high, so you give her water and you contact a doctor.
Right.
So it's all about that finger stick. That will determine any kind of questionable areas.
Because
Yeah.
have you been
Definitely.
with my mom when she's had those
I have.
episodes?
But she has kind of got it down to a science where
I know.
now she can tell when she's feeling a little funny, and she'll take it, and
It's
she'll
true.
keep her little
Stuff with her.
Yeah.
But sometimes that comes on in a hurry. And I absolutely do not want this disease. It's terrible.
I know. That's why
It
I'm
is.
like, if it's controlled by my food intake, I'm good.
We're gonna do it. I know you
Yeah,
got this. You got it down. Boom.
We're gonna beat it because I think I've been redeemed from the curse
I
of
did.
of
Broke the chain.
I had to. I had to. And our time is about up. But before, I know, what do
Go
you
ahead.
want to say?
I was going to ask her what the one thing was that she wanted our viewers to know about diabetes and what's the best piece of advice.
Well, you are in control of your own destiny. And your vessel, as you referred to your body before, I mean, be that captain. Be proactive. Be preventative. Prevention is everything.
Prevention. Oh, and also, how can we get in contact with you? And I think you had like a hotline or something that people can call if they wanted, if they had any other questions. So, could you give us the
Sure.
hotline?
The resource, the best resource out there is American Diabetes Association for those who already have diabetes and who also have prediabetes. My contact is angelique.jones1994@gmail.com.
Great.
Great. Did you get that?
Angelique Jones 199. Is it a dot in there?
Four.
Tell us one more time. 1994 at gmail.
gmail.com.
And
great.
how about the diabetic hotline or
The diabetes website,
yeah, okay, so
diabetesassociation.com.
diabetesassociation.com. So we learned that we need
Love
to watch what we eat,
Eat vegetables.
eat vegetables,
We're-
not only vegetables, but
Lots,
kale.
lots of vegetables,
Lots of
kale, lots of green
something
stuff.
green in the morning, and drink.
Have cinnamon.
Cinnamon
water.
helps to, but it just helps to balance. It helps to keep it balanced, right?
Correct. It stabilizes,
helps
maintains
stabilize.
the blood sugar concentration.
So if you already got the problem, you need to try to get the problem under control, and it'll help to stabilize you.
Love it.
I love it too. We want to thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You put us on the right track. You answered a lot of my questions
Good.
that I had, and you know, like I said, it's just so funny that people, they wait. Why wait when you can do something about it? Don't wait till it's too late, because it might be too late. You could go into a diabetic coma. See, we didn't even like really scratch the surface on diabetes.
Right.
Can you talk about what happens when somebody goes into a diabetic coma just like really, really quick?
Oh, they lose consciousness. Totally.
Is it because the sugars have spiked?
Sugars are too low.
The sugars are too low?
Absolutely. They need that energy. They need that carbohydrate spike.
Okay. So, you learned something else. Well, that is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Angelique.
Thank you. You can join us next time right here in the studios of Life from Studio D.O.C.
Grace that's amazing, a name worth praising. Your love leaves me gazing, it's incredible. The price that you paid, the sacrifices that you made. Oh,